This is the Money Seed Podcast, where we discuss all things investing, plain and simple, the way it should be. Please remember, this show is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not intended to be investment advice. Welcome back to the Money Seed Podcast. I am honored to have Sally Gimon with us today. Sally is the host of Money Secrets on Win-Win Women TV. She's a real estate investor. She runs a mastermind program for a real estate investment group that has over 800 members. And she is an expert on infinite banking and on spendthrift trusts. Sally, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate you interviewing me for your show.
It's a pleasure to have you. Sally, I really like to start things off with background stories and origin stories. Tell us about how you got involved with real estate.
It's kind of an interesting story. Back in October of 2018, my parents drove from Goodyear, Arizona, which is about 20 miles west of Phoenix, to Charlotte for my nephew's wedding. Along the way, my mom got septic of the blood, poisoning of the blood. She was put on a ventilator in the Charlotte area. My dad asked me to check their mail, so I was looking at her Medicare bill for November of 2018, 27 pages long, $179,000. I can remember where I was, what I was doing. I was just like, my dad was a retired military officer, so all her medical bills would be taken care of. But I'm like, I don't have that kind of money. If I get sick, what would I do? A friend of mine was involved in real estate. I called him that day. He's like, come to a party on Saturday night. I met a few people. Then I went to a meeting, and I started full-time. I started investing in February of 2019 because I started self-directing my traditional IRA and my Roth IRA, and never looked back. I actually got fired in November 2019, and the next day I did a wholesale deal for $6,000. I'm like, see ya, I don't need this job.
That's amazing. You know, it's not often that I see people talk about getting fired with a smile on their face, but
and to tell you the truth, I was a Medicare broker, and the one thing about, I don't mean to say this meanly about Americans, turning 65, they're broke. People are angry. They're like, what do you mean I have to pay for Medicare? And it just, everybody knew I was going to quit in a few months later, but it's a funny story. Somebody who was turning 65 and it was open enrollment, I had quoted her, and then she moved 4 miles over the Texas border to New Mexico, and I had to give her another policy, and it was not on the call campaign we were on. And I'm like, you're going to fire me over such a small detail? I'm glad to be out of here. It was a horrible job.
It sounds like you did all right. So
yeah,
you probably, congrats on that. So Sally, tell us a little bit more about that first wholesale deal. I mean, how did you hear about it? How did you get the courage to do it? It sounds like it's not something you did before. How did you come across the deal? How did you get the courage to do it? And how did it work out?
In my real estate group, my mentor for notes, Jay Tannenbaum, would bring us, it's actually an Excel spreadsheet, but it's called a tape. And my real estate strategy is using bank-owned property, which the bank owns it, so people are not aware of it. And where I would, put a bid in, do the research. You have 4 weeks to do your due diligence, and I would find a wholesaler. And I don't think it was anything special. I mean, I like to do the research, and that property was in Thomasville. No, I'm sorry, I forgot the name. Not Thomasville. It's a furniture store in North Carolina. And I called, you're supposed to call a real estate agent. My second call, the real estate agent gave me 3 names of people who do fix and flips. The first person I called was too busy. Second person said, I would love to look at the fix and flip. What if I just bought it from you? And that's literally 4 phone calls, less than a half an hour. It was easy to do, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. That's amazing. And you were able to meet these individuals through your real estate investment group?
Correct. Well, the property came from my real estate investment group. All the phone calls, talking to the real estate agent, she gave me the name of the person who was, the contractor. It was the first time the contractor it was going to be his first real estate investment house. I made money, he made money, and to me, it's a little bit. I don't like my Jay Tannenbaum, my mentor, always told me I leave money on the table, but it's just so much easier just to wholesale it, make some money, and not worry about, is a contractor doing things correctly? 3,000 miles away. That's a little bit too far to keep on top of things.
Absolutely. It's always a good deal when everybody comes out ahead, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just to give you a little bit of history about the house, unfortunately, the gentleman was divorced. He was killed in a car accident. The real estate agent knew everything. She's like, I wonder what was going to happen to the house. That's what you have to find is a real estate agent who knows the neighborhood and knows what's happening. So you do have the backstory because you want to make sure, yes, the bank has the house, but family members might come out. I haven't had that happen to me. I've heard to other people where, people are like, hey, that was my uncle's house. I was supposed to get the house. It's just a hard thing to deal with at times.
And Sally, how did you transition into trusts? When did you start learning about trusts, and when did you open your first trust?
I found out about the trust again from my real estate group. In July of 2020, there was a bank-owned reverse mortgage house in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. I did not put the first bid in. There were two other people who couldn't get the financing done. I had other money from a real estate deal. I purchased the house with the contract. It was July 2020, middle of COVID. Nobody knew what was going to happen. The bank needed to be sold at auction. Opening bid at $50,000. So kind of bored. COVID, nothing's happening very much. I started researching the trust because I knew capital gains. Is currently capital gains are 23.8%. On short-term capital gains. There is lower on long-term, but when you're wholesaling, it's short-term. I sold the house at the first auction. The auction was August 28th of 2021. I was told by the paralegal no one showed up. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, now I have the house, but it's in North Carolina. There's a very strange rule here. It's called upset bids. So if nothing happens, depending on the county, there's 101 counties in North Carolina. You have to know how they work. It's either 10 business days or 10 calendar days. Someone must go in person with either cash or a cashier's check, and then they $750 higher than that. And the house I had sold for $64,000. So during the time from July to August, I researched it, and I was speaking with my father, and currently, I have both a business trust, that works with 1099 income, and then the passive trust works with royalties, like a book or oil fields, and then also works with any investment. It's a little bit scary, but the IRS says capital gains is almost anything you own. So if you eBay your paperback books, you're for more money than what you paid for them. One of my clients, she strips furniture and sells at consignment stores. She got audited for less than a $2,000 a year job, but the IRS went after her in 2019, and now the IRS just hired 1,600 new agents, so they're going after investors and small businesses and things like that. I don't want to be a doomsayer or anything, but they want their money.
Absolutely, yeah. And so tell me a little bit more about the trust. And how does it work exactly? How does the trust help maybe shelter or defer some of those capital gains taxes?
Okay. I'm going to give you the full name of both the business trust and the beneficial trust. The full name is irrevocable. It means it goes from generation to generation. 95% of the trusts out there are revocable trusts. My mom and dad had one to avoid probate. This year, when I did my dad's 2022 taxes, when in April, that trust is going to go away, and all the money has to be dispersed with my two brothers and I. So it's irrevocable. Complex, it means it can hold money from day to day, month to month, year to year, decade to decade. Discretionary, meaning I am the trustee of both trusts. I can make the rules. My family, I have no special rules for them, but I do have clients, husband and wife, who are in California. They have 5 apartment buildings. Their daughter, unfortunately, is involved in drugs and alcohol. They are requiring her to do 4 drug tests a month so she can live in one of the apartments. She took her parents to court saying this was unlawful. As soon as the judge saw it, he's like, they can do whatever they want. So again, it's irrevocable, complex, discretionary, non-grantor. This means someone who is not a beneficiary or someone who you invest with, because I've seen too many investment deals go sour, will sign up for the trust and then sign themselves away. So it makes it 100% private. You don't have to worry. You won't be sued or anything. And then the spendthrift is a special, it's gone in front of the Supreme Court twice to say that it's its own entity and can enter contracts and own things on its own. So this is a very specialized patented trust. It is written under tax code 643B as in Bravo. I'm not trying to make fun of accountants. I would never be an accountant. I have dyslexia. But most accountants only work in the 300 level tax code because 97% of taxes are done in that. But have you heard of the Rockefellers, The Office? Have you ever heard of a book called What the Rockefellers Do?
No.
One of the instructors in my real estate group, Garrett Gunderson, wrote the book. Unfortunately, had to change the name, so it's now called What the Billionaires Do. But the Rockefellers, they have the trust. It's 7 generations old, and there's over almost 400 people in the trust. Just to give you a bit of history, this comes from English law. Back when King Henry VIII had his 8 wives, he started the Church of England. He went after the dukes and the duchesses and lords and ladies of England. They went back to the Magna Carta saying you can't do this. So here is American law, but the law firm I work on behalf of, that I sell the trust on behalf of, they have trusts that are over 300 years old because it's gone from generation to generation. And, you know, going back to that real estate deal in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, $44,000, you know, nice sum. But my capital gains on that would have been $10,500. I mean, that's a lot of money to be paying just because I was in a good real estate deal. So, so far, from 2021 and 2022, what I've done so far, I've saved over $40,000 in capital gains because when you read the tax code, the first page says it's up to every American to defer their taxes or avoid the taxation. So I don't want to say it's a game, but you're given permission to defer as much taxes as you can.
And Sally, when there's $10,000 of capital gains that you didn't have to pay. When you say it's deferred, are you going to have to pay it at some time when you withdraw the money, or like maybe your descendants, or who? How does that work?
Deferred into infinity. How it's written, because it's contract law, it is a contract. When you think about your LLCs, your S corps, and your C corps, that's statutory law which can be changed. This is a contract. The spendthrift is making that the contract, and no, I mean that's the key to the office. Going back to the Rockefellers, everybody in the trust has a business that the trust owns, and that in the business trust, my brother has his brewery, my sister-in-law has her landscape design company. I have other businesses. We all are in different silos. Like my bank accounts don't interfere with their bank accounts. We keep it all separate, if that makes sense.
Even though the trust owns all 3 businesses, you still have separate bank accounts to interact
Correct.
with those businesses.
Correct. So,
Wow.
We have an accountant who understands the different things on it. When you do buy the trust, that's an important thing. You get your first year is a 1041 that's filed instead of a 1040 tax paperwork. So it's a 1041. There's an accountant who does that for you. They will chain your own CPA if you like to, or use them. You'll have a team. The first person's going to get your EIN number, and it's going to work with a non-grantor, and then the team will help you transition things. So I do have both the business and the beneficial trust. If I only had the beneficial trust, my car is in the beneficial trust. So nothing fancy. I drive a Nissan. What do I drive? A Nissan Altima. The book value's $12,000. If I didn't have any other money coming in and I needed to use that $12,000, it's called a draw paperwork. So I can draw up to $12,000 against my car to pay for the 3 things it doesn't cover: food, fun, and fashion. So I was just in London, got my nails done. I have a blue debit card for the business trust that paid for that. But if I didn't have that, I could do a draw, and that's all tax-free. So you can put your property in there. Gabe, are you a real estate investor or a crypto investor?
I am. Well, both. So
okay.
Yeah.
What kind of real estate do you do?
Yeah. So there's I currently own 2 real estate properties, 2 houses, fully by myself that are rented out. and I own two more properties together with a friend. So the ones that I own myself. The ones I own with a friend, we own through an LLC. So I own 50% of the LLC, and my friend owns the other 50, and there's two houses inside the LLC. And then with the cryptocurrency, I just own in my own name through Coinbase.
Okay. With cryptocurrency, I know Coinbase is doing away with their pro, so it's going to change a little bit. But right now, it would have to be in a pro system. That's how I do my crypto. But with the two houses you have, your rent rolls, your one of my clients has a motorhome park. I didn't know you make so much money at motorhomes. He makes over $10,000 a month on the candy machines, the washing and dryers, things like that. All of that gets through the trust. So, people don't realize capital gains are on your rent rolls. Capital gains are on your short-term rentals, things like that. If you decide to get the trust, it would be very easy to transfer everything over. For your personal, two personal properties or rental properties, you would just do two bill of sales. First bill of sale would be on December 6th. I'm taking 123 Main Street from XYZ LLC, putting it into your name. And then the second bill of sale would be December 6th. I'm taking 123 Main Street from your name into the trust. With the two with your partner, you would just have to change the bylaws of the joint venture agreement. Again, not that hard. It's a little bit of paperwork, but once that's done, everything would be covered for yourself. Your information becomes private, and then the most important thing, you're judgment proof. So if something happens and someone tries to sue you, they wouldn't be able to go after your two houses in your name or what you have with your partner at all.
Amazing.
Okay.
And Sally, yeah, sorry. And how easy or how difficult is it to set one of these up?
It does take 2 weeks. So I just have a client. It's going to be the 15th. We just set up the trust today. So they've got the preliminary. They can set up a bank account. They're doing a fix and flip. This is in Victorville, California. It's his first of 4 wholesale deals he's going to do. So when he signs the paper over, when he sells it on the 15th of December, it's already in the trust's name. And when he does get paid on it, that's when he'll pay for the trust. So he's getting it before he's got actually paying for it. Worst case scenario, it takes about 2 weeks for the do the paperwork, get everything taken care of. The longest part that happens is getting the non-grantor to sign the paperwork correctly. I mean, if it goes very smoothly with this gentleman I'm working with in Victorville, it is who is it? It's his best friend from high school. His best friend from high school, we sent him the paperwork. His biggest thing, he didn't have a printer. So we had to get, I'm giving him the directions to a library so he could go print the documents to sign it. That was our biggest hiccup. I mean, other than that, it's really simple to deal with. So it's not hard. I will be honest, you pay for the trust once, and then it just keeps going generation after generation. I now have I hate to say it, a great niece. I mean, she's 2 years old, but she's a beneficiary of it. I'm soon going to have another great nephew. As soon as he's born and gets a Social Security number, they will be a beneficiary too. So when you're under 18, the trust will pay for everything. It will pay for going to school. It'll pay for maybe you're playing a musical instrument, horseback riding lessons, football lessons. It'll pay for everything. When you're adult, the only 3 things it doesn't cover are your food, fun, and fashion, which gets a little bit interesting because if you're a parent, you're cooking for your children plus cooking for yourself. So it's a little bit interesting at that point.
Fascinating. And I'm a little bit okay. So let's go back to the child example where you mentioned that the trust could pay for the child's education, could pay for the child's music lessons. So I mean, I have 2 kids, and
okay,
right now the way
I'm asking how old?
15 and 9.
Okay.
And so right now, the way, I mean, yeah, my younger one goes to music lessons. The way we pay it, I think, is the way most people pay it is, I have a day job. I get my W-2 income. I pay my income tax is automatically deducted from my pay stub. I have my after-tax income. And then from my after-tax income, I go in and I pay for the weekly music lessons. What is the benefit of having the trust pay for it versus me paying for it?
So let's say you set up the trust and you have the rent rolls coming in. I'm making this up. Let's say you have $1,000 from each house. So you're making two houses with your friend or one house with your friend?
Two. Yeah, two with my friend, two by myself. Yeah.
Okay, so $1,000 each from your house, and then $500 from each of those. So you get $3,000. That's going into your trust bank account. It's going to be a separate account than what you're using for your W-2 job, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the only thing, there's the business trust for 1099 income, and then there's the beneficial trust that is for investments. It does not work with W-2 income or with pensions. So I have self-directed IRAs. Those are not in the trust. Those have to be separate because I have to pay taxes separately. There's different tax rules with that. Without having the trust, I don't know if you realize this, if you have your children, let's say they mow the lawn, you pay them to do things in your business, you can pay them up to $15,000 a year out of your taxes to make the tax break better. One of my clients in Texas, both his children go to a private school. It's $20,000 a piece for them, so $40,000 a year. The trust pays for their education. Your 15-year-old, not trying to put pressure on your son or daughter, the 15-year-old.
Daughter, two daughters.
Two daughters. Let's say she's going to take a gap year when she graduates from high school. If she goes to college a year late, or maybe she doesn't go to college. I have one of my clients, their 36-year-old son is going to Boston College Medical School right now, and it's paying for all his education, his room and board, his lab work, his books, everything else. I have another client. He's a real estate investor. Unfortunately, his dad has cancer. He's not on Medicare yet. He's got his dad as a beneficiary to pay for his medical expenses because it was costing so much. My trust owns my vehicle. When I moved here, it paid for the registration. I failed the inspection. I had dimples in my windshield, so I had to get a new windshield. It pays for my gas. My trust owns my health insurance policy. My trust owns my infinite banking policy. I put in my clothes, my belongings, everything like that into it. I'll be honest, I'm living with my brother and sister-in-law right now. They have the house under their names, not my name in the trust, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Fascinating. And Sally, if somebody would like to reach out to you or learn more about trust, what's the best way to reach you?
My website, I appreciate you asking that, Gabe. My website is www.thetrustisyou.com. When you do get there, there is I do a live Q&A on Mondays, 8 p.m. East Coast time. You're on the West Coast, so that's what, 5 p.m. your time?
5 p.m. Correct.
5 p.m. I do a Q&A. It's fascinating with the questions people come up with. But when you go to thetrustisyou.com, you'll see the slides that I do show on Monday night at 8 p.m. Research it, because it might not be for you now, but maybe down in the future. But I do have two slides, my 2021 slide, and then up to July 31st, 2022 slide, showing you the properties I did and what I do with it, showing you examples of, with the crypto. If you don't mind asking, with crypto, are you staking? Are you buying and selling? Are you going from a wallet to everything else? Or
no, actually, there's very little activity in there. I hold a position in Bitcoin, and I have a smaller position in Ethereum 2, which is now staking. Yes, I'm earning some staking income from Ethereum 2. Yes, but I'm not taking it out. I'm leaving it in.
Correct. I started a crypto bot in November where between Ethereum and I'm getting paid like a quarter every time it changes, and all that is in the trust. It's just some wild things I'm learning how to do with this. Just to give you an example, on a fix and flip I was involved with, I was a cash on it. I made $79,000 cash on a fix and flip in Ottawa, Kansas. That saved me $16,000. I then put that $16,000 into another deal. I mean, the money that I'm saving on capital gains just keeps growing and growing. Like I said on the slide, it's July 31st. I've done so many more deals since then. It's just been amazing to do.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Yeah. So thanks for that. I'll definitely put that in the show notes. And I'll be probably the first person to check it out because it
excellent.
Yeah, and I appreciate you coming on. This is the first time that anyone has really explained to me sort of how these trusts work, because the word trust is really thrown around. I mean, it's almost part of everyday pop culture, right? Because you keep hearing that that term in pop culture, like trust fund baby, but I never really knew what that was or what that means. And it's good to finally get into some of the details. So I appreciate that.
Correct. And just to give you an idea, I'm not trying to cut her down, but Susie Orman talks about her trust for $1,000 on PBS. Again, that's just like my parents to avoid going through probate. It doesn't save you in taxes. It doesn't keep your information private, and it doesn't keep you from being sued. Talk about the Hiltons, the two Hilton daughters the trust fund babies. There's a reason they get away with what they get away with and things like that. I'm trying to let everyday people know about this. You were talking about my real estate group. I run a mastermind. My friend Kelly wants to be the poster child. He's a retired preacher from New Hampshire, living in Arizona. Last year, on 2021, on Super Bowl Sunday, fourth time he went to door knocking, found the daughter. Her father had passed away because of COVID. That the house was going to auction. They were able to stop the auction. He made $55,000 wholesaling the property. He sat in on my mastermind 3 separate times, used the $55,000 to pay down debt and do other things. His tax bill is $990 a month right now for 12 months, and he's doing Uber 6 nights a week. The poor salt into his wounds. His wife fell and broke her hip. He can't go out Ubering until one of his grown children can come and sit with her because she's bedridden. And he's just like, if I just had done the trust, I wouldn't have to be doing Uber, for 6 nights a week. And I'm like, Kelly, at least you're learning. And he's like, please tell people my mistake. And I'm like, Kelly, it's not a mistake. Most investors aren't aware how they could save so much money. If you don't mind me asking, and with your rent rolls, is your accountant calling it interest income, or are they calling it just regular income for you on your taxes?
That's a great question. And to be honest with you, I kind of give it to the accountant and let the accountant work his magic. And I never really got into the specifics. I believe that with the LLC, it's pass through, right? So now usually with the rental incomes, it comes out as negative income because most of them are leveraged. And so the interest is deductible. Of course, you have the 29.5-year amortization on the property value, et cetera. And so most of the time it ends up looking like it's a negative number at the end of the year. And so I believe that's actually lowering my taxes
Correct.
directly.
Everything you're doing in your LLC is exactly what you're going to be doing in the trust. You're not going to lose any of the depreciation. You buy a new refrigerator for the house or anything like that. But the one of my clients out of Texas, do you know the Burr system?
Yes, I'm a big fan of the Burr. Yeah, and I'm a big fan of the yeah. That's right. Go on. Yeah.
Well, this sounds horrible, but I'm so glad I'm on TikTok and he found me there. His accountant was using it as interest income because he was taking out loans against the house. So he is saving $155,000. He has 85 houses in Texas. He's working full time like you are. Plus, on the weekend, 20 hours a week at the tractor store. I mean, he's got 85 houses. Why are you working so hard? That's what he was saying. He's like, his accountant told him, slow down. And he's just like, I don't want to slow down. I want to make, he's got 2 children. He's a gentleman with the kids going to private school. He's just like, he goes, you see all these people who are very, very rich, not having to work so hard. And his wife is just so happy to have him home on the weekends now. He started the trust in August. He quit his job at the tractor store. His last day of work for the IT company was Tuesday last week. When was the 30th?
November last 30th. Week. That's right. Yeah, last week. Yeah.
Last week. So yeah, and he's just like, this is what now he can enjoy being such a great real estate investor. Before he was working so hard, paying so much taxes. So do yourself. I don't want to say do yourself a favor, but go back and look at your taxes. See if there's capital gains on it. See if there's interest income on it. All of this is going to be saved because, yeah, you've got 4 properties. You should be living a nice life right now. So it shouldn't be a grind for you doing things like this.
Fascinating, yeah, and it's amazing that I've been a real estate investor now for on and off for about 15 years, but really only seriously about the last 5, and I've been I got all kinds of other small, investment positions. I'm into stocks, I'm into options. We talked about crypto, et cetera. But for some reason, I never really came across this idea of trusts. I mean, I hear about it, but I never really, and maybe it's like this mental block where I watch a TV show and I think, oh, trust is, it's only for billionaires or something. And it's I never even thought about it. Hey, maybe that's applicable to me as well.
It's I don't want to throw the gentleman I'm talking about under a bus. Do you know who Grant Cardone is?
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah, he has that massive fund, and he buys apartment buildings for investors. Yes, very familiar with Grant Cardone.
If you spend $100,000 with Grant Cardone, he offers the same trust for $50,000. So you're spending $150,000 with him. The gentleman I'm talking about in Texas has been in Grant Cardone's, I think it's a platinum group. I don't know what thing. He's been in it for 2 years now, and he's like, I've heard Grant talk about it, but it was never explained to him. And he's like, why didn't I think about this before? So don't beat yourself up. I mean, people don't realize what it could do for you. I mean, if I didn't, I don't want to tell you this book title, but it's called The Creature from Jekyll Island.
Jekyll Island. I'm familiar with it. Yes.
Okay, because you could go down a rabbit hole. You don't have to. I've been down that rabbit hole for you. But when you read the book and find out how our banking system's been set up, how things have been done. I mean, why are the rich getting? I don't want to say the rich are getting away with things, but the rich know what they're doing. I mean, no offense to Grant Cardone, I'll be honest. Each trust is $20,500. The beneficial trust and the business trust. If you get both together, it's $37,000. Grant Cardone selling just the beneficial trust for $50,000. If I could be Grant Cardone, I would be happy to be that. But I'm trying to help the average person in my real estate group. The average person joining is 54 years old, trying to make some money before they retire. If help you start saving money on the 4 properties you have, it adds up year after year after year and makes your money go farther for yourself.
Amazing. Yeah. And I definitely don't want to go down the rabbit hole with it came from Jekyll Island, because that book I believe is it's a very old book, and it talks about the foundation of the American financial system, and it's a bit controversial book, but it's definitely an interesting read if somebody's interested in that. I'll put that in the show notes as well. But getting back, I mean, I have so many questions to ask you, Sally, and I know we're on limited time here, but let's quickly move on to the life insurance trust. And I don't know what the proper name for that is, but
infinite banking.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. Okay, infinite banking. Tell us a little bit more about that. So, just for the record, the first time I ever heard the term infinite banking was only maybe like 2 months ago. First time in my life, and I'm in my mid-40s. So, tell us a little bit more. What is infinite banking? Can I tell
you a short story about how I found out about it?
Yeah.
I was a resident assistant at University of Maryland. Football Saturday, my dorm, Elkton dorm, all-female dorm, right next to the football stadium. On the first floor, someone was in trouble. So my father, I'm middle of 2 boys, Chevy Chevette, no power steering, no air conditioning, no radio, nothing. We put her in the back of the Chevy Chevette, get her to the hospital. They had to pump her stomach. She says, and she had a fake heel in her Doc Martens. She said, press the button. It was a business card folded in half. This is 1989, no cell phones, with a quarter. Beautiful fall day, October, Washington, D.C. area. I call her handler. Never heard that expression before. This gentleman shows up in a 3-piece suit on a Saturday, goes in to talk to her. He comes out and he goes, here's my business card. Stop what you're setting up in Maryland and find out about infinite banking. This was October. In January, I went across the river to Crystal City with my boyfriend in the Chevy Chevette. I don't know if you've heard of family offices.
Nope.
Family offices are very well-heeled people, so it was a family office meeting. And Roger's very Teutonic looking, like, oh, and they're like, and who are you? I'm like, oh, I'm the Gimons of Pittsburgh. I'm a nobody. We sit down, they start talking about it, and they said, oh, you started an infinite banking policy. It's $50,000 a year, and after 5 years, it goes up to $100,000. And I laughed, and they're like, "This is not a laughing matter." I'm like, "I don't have the $20 to get back across the river and get gas for my car." I mean, so not making fun of the person who I took to the hospital, but she's the granddaughter of a chocolate foundation. I don't want to give her name away, but if you know the area, you'll know what chocolate company I'm talking about. It took me 30 years to find a policy, and when I found the policy and can do so much with it, that's why I'm doing my mastermind. I teach on Win-Win Women TV, because everyone should know how easy it is. I mean, yes, it's $500, and yes, the 4 years you're negative, but by year 5, well, actually, depending on your age, by year 4, you put $500 in every month, and you take out $510, and then year 5, you put $500 in, you take out $530. And Albert Einstein has made the comment, the eighth wonder of the world is compounded interest rate. That it pays you compounded interest rate and just helps people. You're leaving a legacy for your family, and you're paying down debt, and then you can decide what you want to do. Because right now, a horrible statistic, Gabe, from Bankrate.com, that says 80% of Americans have more than $90,000 in debt. It could be their mortgage, car payments, credit cards, and are not saving for retirement. That's just an ugly, ugly number. If you don't mind, another website I have going is learnwithsallymarie.com. This is what I teach. The 5 steps that I've used to become financially free. Just let you know, the trust is step number 5, but it's just ways to help people. The second step is a simple gift giving tree. I don't know if you know about gift giving. It's allowed by the IRS. If you Google Dolly Parton in the fires of 2016 in Tennessee at Christmas, she was giving people $15,000 for a reason, because you can gift somebody up to $16,000 a year without them paying taxes. I mean, you join for $10 and get 3 recruits, and then you can make over $72,000. I mean, it's an amazing thing. So I'm trying to teach as many Americans as possible how to get some hope. I mean, when people are drowning in debt, do you know the average bankruptcy? If people only made an extra $250 a month, you could stop bankruptcy here in the United States. I think people just get paralyzed with the debt they have, unfortunately.
And that's something, and thank you very much for bringing that up, Sally, because that's something I mention quite often on the show, is that I think the level of financial education, or maybe the lack of financial education, I think is one of the biggest problems in America. People talk about the wage gap, the wealth gap, and poverty and bankruptcies, and a huge part of that is just education. I think if people would just be aware of how money works and how tax laws work, like we're talking about today, how investments work, I think the average American would be in a far better shape than they are today. I agree with you. The level of finances of the average American household is abysmal. And I mention this quite often on the show, where something like only 10% of American households have a net worth of about $1 million. And yet it's estimated that you should probably have a nest egg of around 2 million for a financially secure retirement. So only 1 in 10 households are halfway to a successful retirement. That's crazy. It's an absolute failure. I think as a nation, as a society, it's a huge failure.
It's a huge failure. And like I said, I was working as a Medicare broker, and I can't tell you how many people are like, no, it's free. And I'm like, when you turn 65, if you want Part B, I don't have the right numbers because I haven't done this in 4 years. At the time, it was $145 a month from your Social Security. Here's a really crazy thing. If you haven't finished paying your student loans and you start taking Social Security, they garnish your Social Security to pay your federal student loans. I had at least one person a day, being a Medicare broker, who was like, I went to school 30 years ago, but you didn't pay your student loans. This is why you're being garnished. I mean, it's again, I don't want to be conspiracy theorist, but do you know who owns Little Brown Books, the largest book distributor in the United States for schools?
No.
Bank of America.
Oh, geez.
There's a reason. I don't want to say there's a reason, but there's a reason we're not being taught how to balance a checkbook. There's a reason why the states advertise lottery systems. I mean, it's we have so much going against us. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this, to let people know there is a way to start. If you do go look at the circle, 5 simple steps, it's what. Maybe you only want to use step 1, step 2, or maybe you only want to use step 5, which is a trust. Be my guest, but at least have a plan. That's the number one thing. People don't have a plan usually.
I agree fully. And thanks very much for sharing that. I'll put that in the show notes as well. And I encourage, if there are any listeners or viewers out there who do need some help, check out Sally's program or check out Dave Ramsey's steps, because these are steps that work. That's why I like the Dave Ramsey show. Can I tell you a funny story about Dave Ramsey? Yeah, please do. Yeah.
Dave Ramsey, my brother and sister-in-law, my younger brother and sister-in-law teach Dave Ramsey's program. So, I'm very familiar with it. His thing is buy term and invest the rest. Most people don't do this. If you Google this, back in November of 2021, there's a video that someone says his financial planners told him to get an infinite banking policy. Literally, in the video, Dave Ramsey's throwing a chair across the room. Dave Ramsey has 3 infinite banking policies. If he just taught his Legion of Ramsey fans, like my brother and sister-in-law, about infinite banking, this is how we did back before the Depression. The only way we sold insurance was with infinite banking. There's a reason why Walt Disney used his banking policy to buy the land in Anaheim. There's a reason why Ray Kroc used it. I mean, I wish people knew the history. And Dave Ramsey, when the person sent in the question, he could have changed so many lives, but instead he just wants to keep being paid by Prime America, buy term insurance, invest the rest. And so many people don't. By the time their kids are old enough, I mean, your youngest daughter in 10 years, if you have a term policy, she's out of college and you're not worried about it anymore. You let the term policy go, and then, no offense, in 50 years when you pass away, they have no money to burial insurance or anything like that. That it's $10,000 for a cheap funeral right now. People don't have that kind of money.
That's right.
So many people who died during COVID, their bodies weren't claimed because families didn't want to bury them. I think that's just an ugly, ugly statistic.
Yeah, that's awful. That's absolutely awful. Yeah, it's interesting, and thanks for bringing that up about Dave Ramsey. I did not know that Dave Ramsey had 3 of these infinite banking policies. I did hear, however, I think Joe Biden has a few of these policies as well.
He has 6. Correct.
6.
6. Well, I assume 3 for him and 3 for First Lady Jill Biden. It's a funny story about that. At the time, one of my agents in Arizona works for New York Life. That's who his policies are through. She's just like, I can't believe this. And, it's in his paperwork to file for presidency. So she went to her manager, New York Life, 18 years an agent, went to her director, went to another person, went to the state director. 3 different people at New York Life. They sell these policies to the president, or I guess, what was he, a senator before he became president?
Yep.
The state guy running New York Life told her if she sells one policy, because the way that infinite banking works is I take a 70% cut in commissions. When you put the $500 in, it's your $500. I'm only getting paid by the insurance company. She was told by the state director if she sells one policy, they were going to fire her. She turned around, sold her book of business, went back to all her clients to do this. I mean, why do U.S. Congress people get infinite banking, but regular people in Arizona can't get it? I mean, that's just so unfair.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think it has to do exactly it has to do with the commissions, right? People want to sell you with whatever gives them the highest commissions. Not always what's best for you, sadly. Yeah.
Sadly, the company I work with for infinite banking, they had a before I was just a customer before I became an agent. Back in January 2020, before everything shut down, I went to Daytona. There were about 70 of us in the room showing us different things. And one guy on my left side, he's one of the investors with me. The guy on my right side, he's an insurance, what do you call them? A broker. He has a whole group out in Philadelphia. Second day, he goes, I understand infinite banking for myself and my wife, but none of my customers are ever going to learn about this. I'm like, wow, because of you, I'm going to tell as many people as I can because, he understands it. Why isn't he telling his clients, it's stacked against you. I mean, maybe your insurance agent's never heard about it, but if they have heard about it, they don't want to take the cut in commission. My goal is I'm making good money in my real estate investing. I want to share the wealth with other people. My favorite book is The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. On both slide decks of the 2 different websites, I have a list of books. And Wallace D. Wattles says there's enough money out there for everyone. So if I can help you save money, or with your podcast, you can help other people save money, why not tell people how to do this? We all should be helping everybody.
Sally, let's go back to the infinite banking system because I just want to learn better. I want to better understand how it works and what the differences are. So let's take 2 hypothetical investments. Let's say I have $10,000 cash and I can invest $500 or $600 or $700 a month. And let's say I do that in a more traditional investment where I just go and I buy, say, the SPY or some similar kind of index fund, or maybe even a mutual fund, and I keep doing that, versus I open up one of these trusts and I follow the infinite banking strategy. What is going to be the difference for me, and how is one better than the other?
Just give you an example. One of my clients in Arizona, he started an infinite banking policy. He has he's paying $100,000 a year, and then he also put in $70,000. So his first part about that is that he's doing a kind of burst strategy. He's going to pre-foreclosure houses. He's offering him like $10,000 to move out. He meets them at a U-Haul place. They sign the paperwork. He pays for it. They have to move out over the weekend and leave it what he calls broom clean, that you'll just brush that way. He gets a house subject to. He turns around, he wholesales the house, pays off the loan, and then keeps doing this over and over again. With let's say you want to get into stocks. First year, on average, let's say 62%. So you put $100,000 into let's say $10,000. You put $10,000 into the policy. So you're going to have $62,000 available within 3 weeks of starting the policy. Go invest it in the stock market, make some money, or if you lose money, you're still going to be getting that 3.5% compounded interest rate on your money plus dividends. So on dividends on the average are about 6%.
Sally, sorry. The 3.5% on the entire 100,000, or just what's left in?
The entire amount.
Even though I've taken 60,000 out, I'm still getting 3.5% on the 100,000.
Just to let you know where you're taking the money from. You're not borrowing it from your policy. You're borrowing it from the general fund. There's 10 insurance companies in the United States. It must be a mutual company. So I write with Lafayette. I write with funny story. My first policy, the day I started my first policy with One America, there was a press release. Warren Buffett started his 5th policy with One America. So Warren Buffett doesn't know he and I are 1 degree separation. But correct, you're taking it from the general fund. So all your money in the policy. Don't wish this on you, Gabe, but let's say you get hit by lightning in 2 years. Worst case scenario, you have outstanding loans. The insurance company will pay off your loans and then leave the rest of the policy to your heirs. So they're still getting money when you pass away, but you don't have to worry about not paying it back. So the first year it's 62%. The second year goes up to, let's say, 74%. Third year you're at 80%. Usually, depending on your age, either by the 4th year or the 5th year, you're at more than 100%. So you're saying when you put $500 in and get $510 out, you're doing better with that. As an example, I was telling you about the Ottawa, Kansas fix and flip. The gentleman who inherited his aunt's house didn't have money. I used my infinite banking policy to get an interest-only loan, $485 a month. It took him 9 weeks. Pulled out the appliances in the kitchen and pulled up the carpeting. It was a fast job. He's upset because it took us 9 weeks to do this. So I got $485 3 times because it's 3 months, plus the $40,000 back into my policy. So the loan's paid off. So I made an extra $40,000. And then I got 50% because he went and refinanced the house and gave me 50% on that. It was the sweetest deal I have done so far with my policy. It's an amazing thing.
And every time the balance, the total amount of money you deposit goes up, that means the 60 some odd percent you can withdraw keeps getting higher and higher. Is that
exactly
correct?
And you don't, it's your bank account. You don't have to pay back the loans at all. I highly suggest you do, but I'm Sally. I'm not sending you a nasty letter. I just paid off the loan and made an extra $40,000. So my death benefit grew, and then I can now take out even more money for the next deal I work with. It's a policy that keeps on paying. And I don't want to get too technical with your podcasters, but the first policy I have is not in the trust. The second policy I started in the trust. It's written. I don't want to get technical, but it's written at MEC, which is a crazy. The government's got their fingers in everything. I can fund my second policy almost up to $3 million a year if I want to. I'm not at that level yet, but when I start doing that, because the trust holds it, and it's paying, the trust is paying for the policy. So that's an amazing system to do it that way.
I mean, this is quite incredible. My mind is blown. I'm still kind of processing all this.
It's correct, and I'm going to be honest. You know, the company I used to work with, they got in trouble. Sounds funny. They got sued for plagiarism. I don't want to discuss that, but you know, I don't want to give him credit, but the gentleman I used to work with, it's actually one of my clients that the case study is done on. She started her policy much higher, and she can put in almost $7 million a year into the policy. She's like, I just want to put in only $1 million a year into the policy. I'm like, oh God, I wish I could do that. So, you know, I'm hoping to do that sooner or later.
Amazing, amazing. Wow, that's yeah. I mean, Sally, there's definitely a lot to unpack there. Thank you very much for your time today. I'm definitely going to put all this info in the show notes, and maybe if you could just leave us, if you can leave us with one message or one tip, what would it be?
Do something. Just I want to give hope to people who are drowning in debt. Do something to change your life. Don't sit there and watch Netflix. Don't sit there. There's so many solutions that you could be doing. Do one thing to change your future and see how far you can go with that. I mean, honest to God, going back to my mom, I can remember the exact day in December when I opened up that mail, and I can remember the exact conversation I had with my friend Glenn about becoming a real estate investor, because I was in complete shock, because I knew I would be broke. Another story about my mom. She was in a hospital here in North Carolina. I came back for Christmas. On New Year's Eve, her floor, everybody on her floor, 24 patients on ventilators. On New Year's Eve, 4 families took their family member off the ventilator against doctor's orders. The patient went home to die. We shouldn't be doing that here in the United States. We're a first world country. And the respiratory therapist is in my mom's room, just tears running down her face. And she's like, why? I'm like, because they're on an Advantage Medicare plan. And tomorrow, New Year's Day, they're going to have a $6,000 deductible they'll have to pay, or a $5,000 deductible. They can't afford it. I mean, I don't want that. I don't want anyone to make that hard decision to decide if their loved one is worth keeping on a ventilator or not. I mean, my mom, it was 9 months on a ventilator. She got off the ventilator. She got home. She was missing 9 months of her memory. Other than that, she remembered everything clear. I mean, to have her for an extra 6 months, you know, after she got out of the hospital, was priceless time for my family and I.
Very well said. I mean, that's very powerful, right? And it's very hard to argue against it, right? Because you're absolutely right. Money gives you options, and money gives you choices, and money gives you freedom as well. And I agree with you. Yeah, people need to plan. People need to look 5, 10, 20, 30 years ahead. And
Correct.
there's really, there's no shortcuts. There's no substitute. Yeah.
You know, if I can help you or any of your listeners, all the information, you'll have that in the notes. When you download the slide decks, the last slide has my cell phone number, has how to reach out to me. That's all I want to do. If I can do it, if I can become successful and financially free, if I can be doing things to help other people, just pass the torch to somebody else too.
Sally, you're a wealth of information. I feel like I could talk to you for another hour or two. Thank you very much for your time, and
thank you, Gabe.
Keep doing what you're doing. Keep up the good work.
Excellent. I appreciate you having me on the show. I wish you and your family a beautiful holiday season then, okay?
Same to you. Thanks very much, and have a good night.